With an incredible and pretty enviable track record, supporting companies of all sizes conceptualise ideas, define business plans and build strategy, raise capital, train commercial teams, Ben Bennett is an absolute asset to digital growth in our fair city. Whether you need to sell a product or service, or even yourself, listen to this man intently and he'll help you do all of those.
Hi everyone, thanks for taking the time to tune in and listen to a number of talks today provided by Silicon Brighton for their NHS fundraiser. When I was asked to do this, it was an absolute no-brainer because I've been sitting at home wondering what more we can do to help both people on the front line and anyone else in our community get through all these times. So if it's just sitting and having a chat and recording myself on camera, that's the absolute least I could do. So delighted to be a part of it. So what I wanted to focus on today is to sell or not to sell. That is the question. And obviously, as we go through probably tougher times, we're gonna hit some financial difficulties. Some businesses will survive, some won't, and it's all about actually we need to survive as a business community, and sales is a core function of that. But equally, how do we go and sell without looking like we're taking advantage? So today I wanted to cover a number of topics which we'll touch on in a minute, but before we do that, I'll just give you a bit of a background on me. So that isn't me in a Cub Scout uniform, but my first leap into sales, if you like, was when I was in the Cubs many years ago, and we used to run a local donkey derby, which is for those that don't know, you just race donkeys, and there's a bit of a fair and a fete all around the whole experience. It's just good fun. But we used to get sent out into the streets to go door knocking and selling the brochures to these events to raise some money, and without even realising it, knocking on doors, convincing people to part with their cash for a brochure or an agenda for this donkey derby was quite an experience. And we used to get up to all sorts of mischief along the way, but it was really good fun. And then, progressed into sort of telesales roles, media sales, was in media for a long time, and then built my way up through my career and progressed relatively quickly, making a ton of mistakes along the way, and doing a lot of learning. And that actually led me to being more senior level sales roles across different organizations. Now, I took that experience and I formed Second Voice, which is a boutique consultancy focusing on sort of startup and scale up organizations, helping them with go-to-market planning, sales strategy, commercial planning, just targeting people, training and upskilling as well. So what we've done is taken a ton of experience and built that into a formula that now helps other organizations sort of accelerate their commercial growth, which is great. So starting all the way over that side as a Cub Scout knocking on doors, selling brochures, to the picture just down here, which is me giving an opening keynote talk in Tokyo last year at a tech conference, which was just a phenomenal experience, and one that demonstrates that actually anyone can go from quite humble and honest beginnings all the way through to you getting to travel around the world and give talks, and I'm really privileged to be in that position. So I'm hoping to impart some knowledge today, and I'll be answering any questions during this process as well. So feel free to contact me on any of the details below, or we can talk during this presentation. So what I wanted to do was just talk through a brief intro into sales and selling, sort of understand and explain why people often try and push their product or service, and actually it's not about you, and then looking into more practical applications of how we might be able to generate revenue and grow relationships during lockdown and the time that comes beyond that as well. So moving straight into the conversation is, I want you to think of a dirty word. I have a few that come to mind, but the reason I ask this is a lot of people don't go straight for sales. And in this country, sales is considered a very dirty word. Where you compare the UK to the US, and sales over there is a very, very sought after career. The possibility to control your own earnings and development, be a lone wolf out on the road, whatever it is actually fondly looked upon. And here, you mentioned the word sales, and some people try to mask it with business development, or I'm a relationship manager, or an account executive, or whatever job titles you have to try and hide the fact that you are selling. But the fact of the matter is, whether you're a business owner, a founder, whether you are a salesperson, a marketer, customer services, you could work in retail, you could work in any industry, all of us sell, and all of us sell very aggressively. Because we need to persuade people. We need to bring people to our side of thinking. It can be anything from negotiating a pay rise to convincing your partner to go to a certain restaurant for dinner. Anything where you need to change somebody's mind from one to another, you are in a sales process. Now, for any of you that have got these creatures at home, these things are called toddlers. So toddlers and young children are actually some of the best salespeople in the world, and purely for the fact that they are just so hungry for knowledge, whether they know it or not. So whether you're telling them yes or no, they're constantly asking why, why not, what's this, what's that, and they're using big open questions. Now, I wouldn't actually employ one of these toddlers into a sales team because they are just relentless. However, asking big open questions forces us as parents or as prospects or anybody on the receiving end of an open question to actually consider an answer and give more than a yes/no response. So these guys, and this is my son, he's 2.5. I give in to him all the time because he's asking me lots of open questions, and he typically ends up getting what he wants. But what we want to try is and take that raw talent and turn that into something far more structured in helping us sell and obtain new relationships and business. So what we want to do is define more of what we are selling. So when you know your product and you know your service, the important thing is to have that product and service knowledge, but do you know who you're selling to? So I've come across many businesses who will pick up the phone and think that their product or service is the best thing since sliced bread and try and sell it to anybody and everybody. And the volume game just simply doesn't work. You can't spread yourself too thin. So my advice here is, if you are selling, is really button down your audience. Who are they? And that could be sector-specific audience. Within those organizations you're trying to sell to, who are the job titles? What are the roles that are going to be using your product or service? Who are the individuals that are actually going to sign off on your contract? And target really, really specifically who you want to reach out to. And that will narrow down the amount of time you're spending trying to do 1,000 different things at once. And you can say, I'm trying to sell to HR managers in the automotive industry. And that is really targeted. And then you can go and use LinkedIn to find a list of people, use their sales navigator tools. Don't pay for anything. Just go on LinkedIn and look for the names and numbers, pick up the phone and ring them. So it's all about really making sure we've got this laser focus on where we're selling into. The other thing worth focusing on as well is understanding what your revenue targets need to be. Now, there is a lot of businesses today that want to put a target in, run at it, hit it, and then they'll see continuous growth because they'll raise the target month on month. And that's great. That is growth. That is improving your sales and bringing in more customers and more revenue. But what does that actually mean to your business? If you're increasing your sales by £10,000 every month, but you're still not making enough money to pay your staff and overheads, then actually your revenue targets are probably incorrect. So think about why your revenue target is that number. And when you need to hit 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, whatever that target needs to be, make sure you know why it's there. Then what we want to do is we want to kind of break that down into activity. And what we do is we define key performance indicators, so KPIs. Now, KPIs are a great way of understanding if you as an individual, if you're a salesperson or a manager or a founder, owner, whether you're actually on the right track. So these are not always used for big brother tactics. These are used for improvement tactics. And what I'll do is I'll give you an example of this. So where we have our sales target, and then we need to break that down and understand, how many meetings or proposals we need and how many phone calls we need to make to get to that stage. It gives us the ability to understand through each step of our activity and our process where we can improve and what we can do more of, and I'll touch on that more in a second. So let's look at targeting the audience again. So why are we targeting them? That was one thing I missed just now. So why are we targeting them? Is it because they are good payers? These particular people, these particular company types, are they the ones that always pay their bill on time? So if you're trying to sell to the big multinational enterprise levels, sending an invoice, you'll probably have to go onto their payment terms, and you will probably get a delay in payment, and these things don't run smoothly and they're difficult to chase. Whereas if you're working with a company that has maybe just 100 people as a customer, or maybe a bit more, then you have direct relationships with the people that you're working with, and it's far easier to collect money when you're sending invoices. But it also, you get more control of defining about who you really want to work with. So it's very easy to take money because you need it, but actually sometimes working with people are going to be great versus working with people are going to cause you more headaches than it's worth. It's making that clear divide as to who you want to work with. So the people, as again, touching on who you want to sell to and where you're selling into as well. So I'm working with an organization at the moment that is about to launch a product aggressively to market. What we're doing with them is helping them understand, actually, yes, we can focus in Brighton because that's where we are, but where are their audience? And what we're clearly seeing is that the audience that they need to market to are in major central business districts. So looking at the east of England, southeast of England, the northwest, where we're covering off the major cities and the central business districts there. So key things to consider. So coming back to revenue targets again, I clearly rushed ahead on the other slide. Breaking this down into either weekly targets, monthly targets, quarterly, annual, and then you're biting that off into bite-sized chunks. And then how do you actually target yourself? So there is no right or wrong way to do this. Some people target themselves on the value of the whole contract. Some people target themselves on the amount of invoices being sent that particular month. Some people target themselves on the amount of money landing in the bank that particular month. And some people don't even have revenue targets. They just have activity targets as well. So if you want help looking at how you can structure your targets more efficiently and across the year and give you more understanding of forecasting, then this is something you can do as an exercise to give you a bit of planning. So getting back to the KPIs that we alluded to earlier. So the number of deals will equate to the number of revenues, and that's your average order value. So if you need to make £100,000 this month and each deal is worth £10,000, you need to do 10 deals. Working that back through pipeline stages, if you know that every proposal you send, 2 of them say no and 1 of them says yes, then you need to do 3 times the amount of proposals than you need deals. So if you need 10 deals, you need to be sending 30 proposals. And then that conversion rate keeps upping and upping as you go back down the process. The more meetings you do will convert in more proposals. The more conversations you have will convert into meetings. And ultimately, the more times you introduce yourself via any channel, social media, picking up the phone, email marketing, events, whatever it might be, those introductions turn into conversations, turn into meetings, turn into proposals, turn into deals. So certainly in times where we're locked at home on our own, staying focused and targeted is really important. So for me, as a business owner, I need to be doing exactly the same. So I need to know who I need to speak to, when I need to speak to them, and the amount of them in order to track the probability of those conversations becoming clients of mine. And it's just simple management of pipeline. So through every bit of the sales process, measure, report, and keep refining. So if you're having loads of conversations and they're not turning into meetings, why? If you're having lots of meetings and they're not turning into proposals, why? The bit that we need to really focus on is that last one. It's just continuously refining. And it doesn't matter how long we've been doing it. It doesn't matter how great things are going. I assure you, as things change, as they drastically have now, in the environment and the audience will change, your product and service will need to adapt, and we need to continually refine and improve. So it's something just to make sure you keep an eye on. It's all about discipline. So I put together just a brief list of some CRM systems that are out there. Salesforce is probably incredibly well known, but actually quite expensive. And depending on when you want to implement a Salesforce platform into your organization, you'll want to get it to your spec. So the implementation can be relatively expensive, but the output of the product is incredibly good. And then the other three are very simple to set up yourself. So Pipedrive, Zoho, and HubSpot, all really, really easy to set up. Pipeline stages, look at activity management, even if it's just yourself or if it's a number of people in your team. HubSpot actually offer a free CRM system, which gives you limited functionality, but being transparent, I use them. I don't pay anything for it, and then I can keep a track of all of my contacts, all of my pipeline stages, and make sure that I've got my tasks and reminders in there so that I don't miss any follow-ups or activities with any customers. So these are four that I would recommend straight off the cuff to go and research if you're not using a CRM already. But even a spreadsheet, if you're not looking to engage with any new platforms, even using a spreadsheet right now will get you far more organized and help you understand those conversion rates through those stages. So I hope some of you are old enough to recognize this guy. He's a Thunderbird, and the reason I put him in this slide is these guys have got a very famous saying, which is FAB. And FAB actually in the sales world translates to features, advantages, and benefits. So moving away from targeted customers and targeted approaches and measurement frameworks, what we want to do is now move into storytelling. So the way you make sure you've conveyed your product or service to a customer is you use the feature, advantage, benefit. And that is essentially the best way to tell a story. So you've gone through and you've asked all your whys and your whats and your hows and your whens, and you've captured all of the needs through your conversation. And now you need to match these up with what your product or service does. So if, for example, your customer or prospective customer is spending too much money, you can say to them, I know you've spent too much money doing X, Y, Z, but now we can go through the feature, advantage, benefit of our service. So one example I've got at the moment is video conferencing. Now we're all doing it because we can't travel anymore. So let's look at that. So the feature is what the product or service is. So it's online video conferencing. The advantage of that to your prospect is what it does. And so you'll be able to see your prospects face to face without the associated travel time and expenditure. And the benefit is where you really hammer this home, and you need to talk to prospective customers and audiences, assuming they haven't got your level of knowledge on your product or service, and treat everybody with kid gloves. Explain it in the most basic terms. Online video conferencing, you'll be able to see your prospects face to face without the associated travel time and expenditure. And what that means for you is you will save time and money while increasing productivity. That will give you more time to do more meetings and close more deals. So if you're on the receiving end of that, and Zoom, others are available, can come and pitch to you, you understand what it is, you understand what it does, and you understand why it's important to you. So what I've done here is I've drawn up a quick chart of things that you can create yourself. So on the left-hand side, write down all of your products. And it might even be features within those products and all of the services that you have as well, and have a line for each. And then spend time going through, define what the features of them are, define what the advantages of using them are, what it does, and the benefit. So that when you're on a call, when you're in a meeting, you can refer back to this and say, well, we know that time and money is an issue for you. Well, our product and service is called this. It does this, and what that means to you is. And that way, you're sure that you've landed all of the relevant information for your product and service to meet the need of that individual or that organization. So feel free to put that into a spreadsheet, copy that. It's a really simple matrix that you can fill out. But even today, I still use them, and I still build them for my clients as well. And putting them in front of the sales team just gives that extra confidence in their own ability to tell that story. So as the contents mentioned right at the beginning, it isn't about you. It's not about your product, and it's not about your service. And if you look at all the old sales films, Glengarry, Glen Ross, Boiler Room, Wolf of Wall Street, these will all show tactics where you've got people on the phone just pushing and pushing their service. And actually, what they all forget to do is care about the people on the receiving end of that conversation. So what do they want? You may, so people have said to me before, there's a great two-seater sports car, and you try and sell me this car, but actually I've got a family and I need to put shopping in the boot. So the two-seater sports car is useless for me. But you need to find out what my needs are. And that's what you need to be doing when you're selling and when you're communicating is don't assume that somebody wants your service or product. You've got to go and ask the questions to find out what their needs are. And then that is how you get a better understanding of the individual, better understanding of the organization. And only when you truly know you can solve some of their problems can you move into talking about your product or service. And there's a young guy who lives in Brighton, who I'm still in contact with, and we met many years ago. And I said to him once, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that ratio. And that as a topic is pretty true. Selling is not about talking, it's more about listening. But that stuck with him, and he reminds me of it every time we speak. And the purpose of that is make sure you fully understand who you're selling to, why you're selling to them, what they want, do they want anything, do they have needs, help them understand that you then may be able to fix it, and then offer the solution at the end after you've done the questions. So it's really important not to go hammer and tongs out to a market. Certainly in times like this where you may want to be winning more customers as a position of urgency, but you've got to be really cool, calm and collected. Just be curious, be forever curious, and that will make you a far better salesperson if you're caring more about the needs of others, and being curious and almost selfish on your knowledge acquisition as well. So the last session of the chat, I wanted to run through just some ideas about how to win business during these times or building pipelines and building those relationships. So, I want you guys to all think, what has changed from your offering, and what has changed from your clients and customers and prospective customers' needs? Significant changes happened. We're going to look at updating your communications and some tactics you can deploy, how to encourage collaboration, and then obviously not neglecting any obvious opportunities. So what has changed in your offering? If you are something that was fundamental to businesses that were working when they were in a collective and in an office, it might be water coolers, air conditioning, something similar to that. Actually, those are industries that are going to suffer a bit because people are working from home and people don't need that in their lives, or do they? So, how is your offering going to change? How have your prospects' needs changed, and how can you adapt? So, are they attacking? Are they going aggressively and taking advantage of the market right now, or are they in defense mode, where it's about survival and retention rather than growth? And I would argue that a lot of businesses, other than Jeff Bezos at this time, are in the sustainment and defense mode. But what we need to do is look at our offering. How can we change to support? So, with my role as an example, so as a consultant and a coach, what I do now is less on site working with multiple teams and more strategy creation and delivering plans for organizations to run themselves. It's about one-to-one engagement and booking in time to offer different sessions instead of going in and running teams directly. So there's lots and lots of ways that you can adapt and look at the skills that you have. And a great example of what restaurants are doing now, and not all of them, unfortunately, but moving away from in-house dining to offering exclusive deliveries. And so they will be losing revenue compared to having people with bums on seats in their restaurant. But what they're doing is they're maintaining an income, and it's all about adapting. So how do you need to adapt? How can you change your offering today? So update your tactics. If you were phoning office numbers before, unless they've got a call forwarding system, you're going to be very hard pushed to get through to those numbers. So what are the effective channels? How can you reach out to people better? If you've got their mobile numbers, use WhatsApp. Get back on emails in terms of finding out where people are and how you can contact them. Use social media. Comment on people's articles. Start to engage in conversation with people, debate with people, feedback on content in LinkedIn, whatever it might be. Just make sure that people know you're around and you're interested, and add value to those conversations as well. If you're following up with previous conversations, deliver those empathetic follow-ups. It is less of the hard sell. We can't be going in like a bull in a china shop trying to close these deals out of fear and desperation now. What we need to be doing is remaining calm and empathetic to everybody else's situation, even though we may be going through the same ourselves. We're the solution providers at this stage, so we're the ones that are helping our customers. So ask them if they're okay. What's keeping them awake at night? How are they? Is there anything that you can do for them? And that's just a decent bit of human-to-human interaction, adding value, adding support, and adding help. And then, the last point that we can do here is just build common ground. And ultimately, sales is nothing other than relationship building. It's a human-to-human interaction where one person adds value, the other person receives value, and maybe exchanges something in return. So build common ground. This is what we've seen happen. Our customers are seeing X, Y, and Z. This is what happened when I did A, B, and C. Pass on that experience to your prospective audiences and share with them, because people will feel value. They need help. They need ideas. And while everybody thinks that they may have a handle on it on the outside, on the inside, it's like that old analogy of the duck on the water, gliding smoothly on the top of the water, but underneath, you've got their legs going to paddle them along. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes that we don't know. So share your advice, share your experiences, and basically communicate and offer value where you can. And then encourage those collaborations. And just to re-emphasize that point, and it's really, really difficult, but before we were even in lockdown, if you hear from a salesperson at the end of the month when they're trying to hit their target, they are selling and they sound desperate, and you are less likely to buy from them because of that fact. We may be in a position now where incoming revenue is slowing, but don't be in a rush to win deals. Now, this is counterintuitive, I know, but this is all about long-term relationship building and getting those deals over the line when we can, not just rushing them through and putting pressure on somebody else who's already heavily under pressure. So don't be in a rush to win them. Try and close them organically. Absolutely do still ask for business, but make sure that you are not in a rush and do not come across desperate on any call or interaction with another prospect. Re-emphasizing again, sharing those success stories of what's happened before. So you've got customers that are using your service or product now that haven't left you, that are still using you, and there's huge value that you're adding to them right now. Get your existing customers to be one of your major assets. Look at reviews. Using Google, there are other services out there, Sidro, Trustpilot, a number of others. Basically, all of these are a possibility for you to get your brand out onto other platforms so people can see what you do, and your existing customers will be your biggest advocate. And we'll touch more on that in a sec. And then, in terms of more evidence for collaboration, there's tons and tons of white papers out there. And I don't know about you, but I'm doing a lot more reading. everything from articles on Medium, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm consuming information and making sure that I'm being ruthless and selfish in my knowledge acquisition. But a lot of the information that you can find, you can share. So share it on LinkedIn. I found this useful article for people in this space. Here's what I thought of it. Here's what I liked. Here's what I didn't like. That encourages conversation and collaboration. So continue to do a lot of that where you can. And then lastly, paying attention to the obvious opportunities. So your existing customers, if you're fortunate enough to have some that are staying, how can you engage with them more? What more can you deliver to them? So if they're paying you £100 a month, how do you turn that into £120 a month? They already trust you. They already value you. Is there a new product you can create? Is there a new service you can deliver? Is there more value you can add during this time that may be short-term contracts to help improve cash flow? Can they pay up front for that service? Have a look at what you can do across your existing client base. Incentivize people to commit cash, because cash ultimately is king. Look at those client recommendations. Now, as I said, there's already review platforms that you can utilize, but another thing that some companies do, certainly if you're in smaller organizations like myself, is you can ask your customers to speak to another prospective customer. It sounds crazy, but if I'm working with customer A and they're very happy with what I'm doing, and they know that I'm trying to win new business as well as they are, and I just say to them, look, I've done this for you. I've sent you some links. We're collaborating. I've given you tons of advice. I've got an ask. Would you mind having a 15-minute conversation with this new customer I'm trying to win to sell me to them? You know, help tell them how good I am, because there is nothing more valuable than third-party input to the service or product that you deliver. Social proof, they call that. Somebody else selling the value that you add is actually really, really, really valuable. So try and focus on that as well if you can. The other thing that comes with some of the larger organizations that either have marketing plans is you're going to have inbound leads. Now, without a shadow of doubt, these will start to slow if you do nothing, just because less people will be inquiring, less people will be inclined to spend money. So if you don't have a crucial service, you're probably seeing those leads dry up right now. So you need to either go on the offense, which is doing more marketing, double down on your marketing to drive more people to your website, fill out the forms and drive more leads. But those that are already coming through, handle very graciously. You know, don't forget that you're really fortunate enough to have these leads coming to you, that you've been recognized as a potential solution for a customer, and they are coming to you for help and advice. This is not a low-hanging fruit very quickly. They've come to me, I've got to close the deal now, I've got to look after my bank balance. You've still got to lead with service, you've still got to lead with excellence, and that is all about empathy, understanding, and then delivering the right solution. So any inbound leads that you're getting, as you should always, treat very graciously. And then there are those relationships as well that aren't going to close into deals immediately. So what I'd say for you there is start building for tomorrow. Start building for a month's time. Add value, keep giving. Everything that you can give, people will remember. And follow up with them. You know, I spoke with another individual that I'm working with through the NatWest Accelerator program, and we were talking about how he does this quite naturally, sends a ton of information through, but then doesn't follow up to see actually was it useful, did anything come of it. And just by following up, it gives you another excuse to have a conversation and further build a relationship, and that's going to be really important. So if you can't close the deal today, don't forget that deal or that lead or that opportunity may happen in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, but it's all about that relationship building. So that's the end of today. I'm sure you guys have got some questions. If you want to fire some over now, we'll go through some Q&A through the chat. I believe that guys at Silicon Brighton have set up. Make sure you're using the Silicon Brighton NHS hashtag to share any content, any feedback on social media. This is obviously online and recorded, so people can come and watch this, gain value, and obviously contribute to a great cause at the same time. If you want to ask me questions at all at any other time, you can scan that QR code, with your phone, and it will take you straight through to my LinkedIn profile, so you can add me there, or obviously my contact details are at the bottom of the page. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to come and listen and engage with this great event that the guys at Silicon Brighton have put on. I appreciate your time and effort, and I look forward to the rest of the chats. Many thanks.